Here's a thought that I've been thinking about for the past 24 hours. As believers, we have to be careful about the things we impress upon one another, especially when someone is newer in their walk with Christ. There is a difference between this is my personal opinion versus this is what the Word of God says. We have to be willing to study, search the scriptures, and test what we hear instead of confidently presenting our opinions as biblical truth. We can refer to Acts 17:11 that tells us that the Bereans, excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, that they received what they were taught, but they searched the scriptures daily to see if what Paul had told them was the truth, right? And that doesn't only apply to what we say, it applies to what we allow ourselves to hear as well. We have to be careful about who we give our ears to simply because they said, God told me this, God said this. Test it, search the scriptures, ask God for wisdom and discernment. James 1:5 tells us that if we lack wisdom, we can ask God and God will give us the wisdom generously, right? Because through Christ, we don't have to depend on someone else to have access to God for us, right? The veil was torn for everybody. The veil was torn for me, just as it was torn for you. We have access to the Father through Jesus. That doesn't mean God can't use other believers to teach, encourage, or speak wisdom into our lives. But no person's revelation should replace our responsibility to seek God for ourselves and test what we're hearing against His word. Because when someone is growing in their faith, our words carry weight. What we casually call freedom, revelation, or deconstruction can become someone else's understanding of what it means to follow Christ. James 3:1 reminds us that those who teach will be judged more strictly. So let's be careful with what we teach. Let's be careful with what we listen to. Let's be humble enough to say, I don't know. Let's search the word together. Let's make sure that when we're discipling others, we're giving them the pure word of God, the living word of God, and not simply our opinions about the word of God. Test everything, search the scriptures, ask God for wisdom, get understanding, and be mindful of what you're impressing upon someone else's faith. That's all.